Hi, I'm Wasim, and welcome to Spark Coaching, where we spark real change and help you break free from labels, fears, and habits that are holding you back. If you're into personal development that's actually doable, not the kind that makes you feel like a failure when your morning routine slips, then hit the subscribe button. Today, I want to talk about something I see everywhere in coaching sessions, online conversations, and even on my own journey: perfectionism, and how it's slowly, silently ruining your life. Let's dig into the truth behind that famous quote: perfect is the enemy of the good, often attributed to Voltaire. Because if you internalize this, and a lot of us do, it could be a turning point in your life. So, what is the trap of perfection? Why is perfection so seductive? We live in a culture that celebrates perfection. Instagram filters erase flaws. Hustle culture tells you that you have to optimize every second. Success stories don't show you the years of failure and mess. It's no surprise that so many of us feel like we have to be perfect before we can even begin. But here's the problem: perfection is a mirage. The closer you get to it, the more it moves away. Clinical psychologist Dr. Paul Hewitt, who spent decades researching perfectionism, calls it self-destructive and an addictive belief system. Perfectionism is not the same as striving for excellence. It's more about tying your worth to your outcomes. In other words, if it's not perfect, you're not good enough. And that mindset, it kills progress. Perfectionism takes many forms. So, procrastination, you keep tweaking and overthinking. Imposter syndrome, you feel you're not ready even when you are. Burnout, you're pushing yourself beyond a healthy limit. These are all examples of perfectionism. You don't finish a book, the business, the blog, because it's not ready. You delay applying for a job. You never share your ideas. If this sounds familiar, doesn't mean you're lazy, it just means you're stuck in a perfection loop. So let's go a bit deeper into perfectionism and look at the psychology. In 2020 Clinical Psychology Review, researchers found that perfectionism is strongly linked to anxiety, depression, and even suicidal ideation. That's how serious it is. And yet we often confuse perfectionism with having high standards. But here's how to tell the difference. Healthy striving is about growth. I want to do well. Perfectionism is more about fear. I must do this flawlessly, or I'm a failure. Brené Brown, one of the most respected voices on shame and vulnerability, says, perfectionism is a 20-ton shield that we lug around thinking it will protect us. But it's actually the thing that's preventing us from actually being seen. That is important. Because perfectionism doesn't protect you, it isolates you. It convinces you to hide your voice until it's perfect. But your voice, as it is valuable. So let's flip the script. What if good enough was actually great? Think about this. If you wait until you're 100% ready, you'll never stop. But if you act when you're 70% ready, you get momentum. And that momentum, that's where magic happens. Philosopher William James, one of the fathers of pragmatism, said, truth is what works. That's it. What works. Not what's perfect, not what's Instagrammable, just what gets you unstuck. Good enough isn't just about cutting corners. It's about trusting the process. Start before you're ready. Learn as you go. Improve iteratively. That's how real change happens. Let's have a look at some real life examples, because theory is nice, but I want you to see this in action. Tech companies like Google and Amazon don't launch perfect products. They use a launch and iterate model. They release the minimum viable product, get real feedback, and improve over time. Eric Rice, author of The Lean Startup, said, if you're not embarrassed by the first version of your product, you've launched too late. Authors like Anne Lamott talk about creating shitty first drafts. They know the first draft is never perfect. It's a starting point. And in coaching, I've had clients who delayed career changes for years, waiting for clarity. But the moment they took a messy step, sent one email, booked one call, it created a chain reaction. Because progress creates confidence, not the other way around. So what happens when you ditch perfection? You gain momentum. You stop being stuck in that prep mode and start doing. You get real feedback from real action, more valuable than years of hypothetical planning. You reduce stress. You stop tying your worth to an impossible standard. You unlock creativity. You're no longer paralyzed by fear. You're free to experiment. And finally, you become resilient. You adapt, you learn, you evolve, and that's real growth. Letting go of perfectionism doesn't mean lowering your standards. It means setting yourself free to grow. So let's go back to that quote. Perfect is the enemy of good. Perfection might feel like it's protecting you, but it's not. It's preventing you from starting, from growing, from living. Instead of asking, is this perfect? Ask, is this good enough to move me forward? And if the answer is yes, go. Because good enough builds momentum, and momentum builds change. And that change is what Spark Coaching is all about. If this video gave you something to think about, hit like, leave a comment, and share it with a friend who might be stuck chasing perfection. And I'd love to hear from you. What's one thing you've been holding back on just because it's not perfect yet? Drop it in the comments. Let's start a conversation. You've been watching Spark Coaching. I'm Wasim. Remember, one imperfect action beats a perfect plan every time. See you in the next video.